Hey up everybody and welcome back. Right, well, it's really winter here. From where I'm sitting, actually I can see out the window in the side door, and all I can see is white and it's cold. Just had a propane delivery, so that's good. We're going to get on with the tank this week. Now this may take a while, as you know, but fortunately because of our time warp I'm actually ahead of myself, so I can get a sort of almost 2 weeks work into 1 week, if you like. So before we start, thank you to all the people who commented in not the last video, the video before, about not to worry, my little miffedness. And I have to admit I was getting a bit teed off with things that particular week, but things have gone somewhat better since. I mean, there's always annoyances, and in a later video we're going to come to a bit more annoyance, which I've been sort of excuse me, my nose is itchy. Remember the Tommy Coper joke? My teeth are itchy. What was I saying? Oh yeah, when we get to it you'll find that my forward planning hasn't been brilliant. Nothing we can't deal with, but you know, making work for myself as usual. Alright, so having said that, what are we going to do? Right, well, the first thing we're going to do is make this wire book, this 1/8" steel rod wire book. As I mentioned at the end of, I suppose it was the last video, even I'm losing track of them now. I decided 1/8" was going to be strong enough because it's such a short, narrow book. We don't have long pieces that would be, you know, a little whippy if we used 1/8. Everything here, as you know, is done. Still haven't put the correct bolt in there. I've lots of bits to pick up. Have to decide on the saddle. Getting that chap that does them for me, as you've seen on a couple of the saddles, does a really nice job. If you remember the one on the Triumph Otter, which is like this, it sort of was shaped around the back mudguard. Beautiful job. But you know, it's like it's getting on for $200 for a saddle. So I haven't quite made my mind up about that. I'd like it to look good, but as I say, I'm building this bike for myself and to use, so I might just make a somewhat simpler pad and just do it myself. But anyway, we'll come to that later on. Anyway, enough gossiping. I can't think of anything else to tell you, so we will set to and build a book. Okay, so I've already had, let me go around the other side. I've already had a little play around about how I want the tank top to look. Maybe not that high, and maybe sloping a bit more down to here. I've got to have a little bit of height here because this is where the filler cap's going to be, which I haven't ordered yet. So you've got to be able to, you know, get the petrol in. And if it was only a little bit above this, you try and pour it in, it'll either splash out or you've got to just dribble it in. Could move it to one side, but that would stop the curve. So once I've decided on that, I'll use this to make a piece of wire. Well, a piece of that 1/8" rod. Now then, I've already made one piece. That doesn't, well, it shows up as a dark line. There's one piece here. Now when I make this, I'll make it to the edge as this piece is here. Then that way, when we make the skin, we're just making a bit longer than the book is, but it's taking it to where we want it to be. So obviously at this end, that won't work, because if I make this go around there, I'm going to be 1/8" out for where I want to be. So we're just going to take it to about there and then come over the top. And then when we make the book, just the same as with here, we'll make it that it'll go past the wire frame and it'll be long enough. We'll make it go right up here and do one each side. Then I'll have made this piece and we'll tack weld it to the little piece there, and then we've got to decide exactly how it's going to go here. Now we've got to take into account where the forks are, which is why this doesn't come as far forward as you might expect, because you see, and here's a problem actually with these upside down forks, they're so much thicker here you're losing some space. That's why I couldn't bring this any further out, because it would have brought that like that. So this is probably going to come round, I don't know, I've got a piece of cardboard. Again, I was fiddling around with this. This is going to come round something like that. So I think I'm going to have to extend. What I might do actually is put a piece in here, follow that line, and it'll just be flat. The tank won't come to it, but at least we won't have this sort of ugly piece here. It'll be polished outward. What's that? Yeah, it's a bit of book. Right, so we'll make a one for here. Then it'll be tacked, welded to our piece that we've made for here. Then we'll make a rib that gives us our right shape here, say, to start with. Make a second identical one, and then they'll be tack welded to there and up here exactly. And then we'll work back, making them, sort of keeping ourselves right with a piece of card or something, so that, you know, they don't jog in or jog out. So they've got the gentle curve all the way. So it's got a curve that way, and it's got a curve over the top. All right. That what I might do is sort of make a bunch of them for one side, and then when I know I've got this right, I'll make duplicates for the other side. I won't tack them on, I'll just check. Right, so first thing I have to do is finish off deciding what I want the shape of the top to be. Right, so here's step one. Tape them down on both sides. I've made a little piece to go over there, which is welded, and I've made that piece, and that's welded on. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to do this midsection first, because I don't want to make a curve here and then find that when I get back to say here, I'm going to do it at the sort of widest part of that, because there is where I've got to clear. As I say, it would be awful if I was coming back here at a nice little curve, and then when I got to here I couldn't do the curve because of this. I had to come out wider, and then it would go out and back in. So we'll do the widest piece first, which is this side. So I'll make one for this side, then I'll use it as a template to make one for the other side. We'll measure back here, here, and then we'll tack them both in, and then that'll really help there. Then I'll either go backwards or forwards, it doesn't matter which, just to make sure that they start to curve in the right direction. In fact, I think I'll go back and do that, and then I'll start to work my way forward, and that way I'll get a better idea of how this is going to curve in. Okay, so there's that one shape there. I'm going to try and use these little magnet things to sort of hold them in place while I tack them. So let's take this over to where I'm working on these. Next step is to draw an outline like thus. Then get myself another piece of wire and bend that to the same shape. Then I've got two identical ones to put up in exactly the same place, and they'll it's going to be very difficult to show you, but they'll go like that. Okay, so let me go and tack these two on. So there's that first rib all the way across. I was a little worried there that I hadn't made this vertical enough here, because that is vertical, but I'll put a little bit of that on there. That's what I've got to keep doing. Right, that's why what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one here and I'm going to put one near the back, and that way I can keep doing this and get the curve right. Okay, so let me make one for here and one for the other side, exactly the same as I just did that last one. Right, there's the second pair on, and what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to put one here, and then I can be doing this, and I'll put another one in there and another one in there, I think, and that'll do, because as I say, all this is for is when the skin's bent, I put it on to make sure it fits on. Alright, so let me do one down here, and then I'll probably do two more. Well, I have to do the ones at this end, but I want to see how all this is going to shape. Maybe make a little cardboard template up to see how it goes. Right, now I've sort of got my end and middle. Well, this is the very end, I suppose. I just put a couple of strips on so that when I made the others, I didn't make them stick out too far or not far enough. I made this one which is going to go here. It's going to go there, touch there, and that's just nicely got the curves. So I've just bent another one for the other side, so let me spot weld these two on, and then we'll do exactly the same here. And I think that might be enough. Well, whatever we have to do for the front. And then what I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the book taped to this, because then as I offer up the two side panels, because as I say I'm going to make it in two pieces, weld it down the middle, I'll see to exactly where I want them to go. So there's that pair in, and as you can see now, this just nicely touches on each of these as I go along. So let me put what, as I say, I think will be the last one, or last pair, in there. Right, so as I say, I'm pretty sure that'll be enough. That's, you know, actually with the 8th, that one's still warm. That's good. We have a little bit to do at the front. Actually, I might not even need to do the front because it'll be up against that. But anyway, that's our wire book. Let me show you it from the end. Right, so I think I've kept it reasonably symmetrical. As you can see, the slope is there, the curve is there. It all curves all the way out. Maybe that's a little bit out. Where's the... Well, that seems to be alright, I think. Okay. Anyway, it'll all come out in the wash. Right, let me do this piece for the front end. Right, well, I put a piece on the front, welded it inside and out. Oh no, there we go. Doesn't that look better? Now, the skin will actually only come to about here, but I just didn't like the fact that it didn't go all the way up to the front, right? And that, of course, is fine for the steering and everything. There was something catching the wheel there, I didn't come all the way around. But anyway, and I polished that bit up because that'll stick out. So let me fasten this down and tape the book back on top. Oh, before I forget, I might have solved the problem of why this was so difficult to bend, and yet it wasn't when we did the other one. Just out of interest, I cut this as one piece, so I had to bend it. I put my felt tip, lots of felt tip pen on, you know, as a guide to the temperature. But just out of interest, I've put felt tip on the other side as well. So I heated it all up, felt tip pen disappeared, so right, should be at our anneal temperature. When I looked on the other side, felt tip pen was as black as when it started. So I think what happened here was I didn't get heat, or I didn't get the whole of the sheet to the right temperature. I kept heating this till the other side disappeared, and then my God, it just bent. You know, when I did this 2-inch, I just bent it like that before putting it on the 2-inch pipe to form it up. So I think that is the reason why that was so difficult. I just didn't get the whole of the sheet all the way through to the correct annealing temperature. All right, book. So there's the book taped back on. As I say, we'll work with it like this, because then we can make it come right down to the edge where it's supposed to. I actually cut this pair off and did them again because I wasn't getting a complete line. When I sort of rolled a straight edge from here to there, to there, to there, to there, this was a bit out and it didn't touch there. So I just shortened it slightly, moved it in a little bit, and that gives us, where are we? Where's the bit of cardboard gone? Of course that's vanished. Oh, there we go. That one will do. Oh, I have a slight problem coming up in the future. I've stopped eating these, so I'll either have to find a new cereal yeah, that's good. That's touching all the way around. Alright, so actually the next thing to do is to make a sort of paper template for this. And then cut a piece of alloy and start beating it with a big hammer. Alright, you're saying, why are you sitting there like this? Because before we press on with the tank, I've got another annoyance, another failure of memory and what have you. I had a comment about the 2 idler gears here, and I'd forgotten to put them in. And I almost answered it and said, no, it's alright, there's no distributor, don't need them. But before I got time to answer that, I got an email, and of course I've forgotten everybody's name, so excuse that, saying, don't forget about the 2 idler pinions, because to all intents and purposes they're part of the lube system helping get the oil back down that hole into the oil tank. And I thought, no, don't remember putting them in with the other bike. So of course I have a record of that. I went back, looked at the video, and sure enough I put them in. So the next thing I thought was, you know, I don't remember seeing any. So I've just rummaged through the boxes and I've only got 1. So we know what that means. It means another order from Hitchcock's for just 1 item. I'm paying more in shipping than I'm paying for bloody parts. So I was going to put these in, but I don't have them. And also actually they go in like that. The bush has a shoulder on it. And then there's a washer that goes on the front, a thrust washer in effect. Certainly spacing washer, thrust washer. So I've got to get online and order one of them. Now this is going to be 3 orders where I've ordered 1 thing. Isn't that annoying? So any road up, let's have a let's get on with the tank. So because of the curves and the fact that we're using this wire buck, we're going to make the template out of paper. Right? So I've got it taped on along the top rib. What we'll do is we'll cut it out bigger when we cut it. And there, as you can see, is the bottom. We can do the dirty finger marking technique for that. So we'll do that all the way around there. So the first thing I'll do is cut that a little big, and then we can start to see where it's going to go. All right. Now then, I've also got something else to tell you. While I was getting all this ready, this thing about those timing pinions really got to me. I know I put them in on the engine, but I still can't really see why you need them to get the oil back to the oil tank. Hang on. Right. Now, because there's a hole in the case here. Now, I remember with the other engine, I had comments with a couple of people backwards and forwards about there not actually being a return to the oil tank. That the feed side only fed the rockers, that it went up into the rockers, came down into the timing chest, and that's what put it. But as I pointed out, you could go back, as I did, to that last video, and I actually set two with an airline and a piece of paper and showed that the two holes here on the return side, one went up to the rockers and one goes in a passageway through here and into the oil tank. So, seeing as it was only about 11 o'clock-ish, which is 4 o'clock in the UK, I phoned Hitchcock's. And as usual, they were very helpful. A lad over there went off and talked to the other fellas. The consensus is, no, I don't need those pinions in there. So, we're not putting them in. All right. So as I said, let me cut this and then I'll bring you back. Right. So there we have it roughed out. As you can see, I've left a little bit extra. It goes all the way around onto there. So we're gonna, when we make it, that's gonna be a curve. This, for most of the way, is just gonna be a gentle curve in that plane. It's gonna be a simple curve, shall we say. That is gonna be a compound curve. Possibly, I'm going to see what I can do about this bit at the bottom. And this also is going to be a compound curve, because it's not only curving that way, it's not only curving from top to bottom, to be exact, it's curving from front to back. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut out a piece of 16th, and we are going to anneal it and make sure we anneal it all the way through. And then we'll start to put it on the shrinking stump and start to put some shape in it. Alright. Oh, by the way, before I forget, let me get in here. Sorry I forgot your name, Andreas. When I was talking about the gear change, what have you, it's Andreas Siegler. I think that's the right pronunciation. And he's been very helpful all the way through. Nice chap. So, thanks again, Andreas. Sorry for forgetting your name, but you know it's not just you. Right, so there's that piece cut. And it appears to be long, but of course, when that is bent around and the back end's bent around, it'll shorten this top length. So, I know the people who know what they're doing make their templates and cut this more or less exactly the size, but seeing as I'm just bumbling my way through this, we'll cut it big, and with this only being 16th, this will cut easily with a pair of hand shears. So when we've got it close to fit, I can just keep trimming a little bit off. Alright, so let me go and anneal it and then we'll start bashing it. Right, got it nicely annealed, I think. So the first thing I want to do is just put that curve, that top to bottom curve in it roughly, and then we'll see about doing the ends. Sorry about that. We'll do the other side first. that. Right now, I've got it started. Because it was annealed, what I've been able to do is just bend this on my knee, basically, on my thigh. See, I wanted to get the start of that. My head in the way. But as I said, we've got various different curves here, so we're going to have to right, that wants to be one. That wants to come in faster off the top. Put that on my, there you go. I'll have to start beating this now, because although it can bend the middle all right. Okay, let's start pounding on it. So I think we'll start at this end because it's actually a simpler end. Now I was looking at the bowl I've got in this, and I decided it was too steep. The sides were too steep for this, so I've sanded out a shallower bowl. Right, now we're going to move over to the sandbag. Alright, I'm moving to a bigger hammer actually, bigger head. Okay. Now you see how it's doing this, so I'm going to have to bring it back to being a straight line. But I can do that because this is going to have a curve all the way along the top. Okay, starting to form the tucks, so they've all got to go back on the firm bit and be hammered out. So let me go and do that, and then we'll try it on the bike. Right, so see, it's starting to curve round there, but you'll notice that this is why I was talking about the length of it. As it curves round, obviously it brings this round, so we're going to have to be trimming it and trimming it to keep that bit straight. Alright, so I'm just going to keep pounding at this. I'm not going to show you lots of pounding, so that's going to reduce the length of the video, but it's just too boring to show you me hitting this and walking backwards and forwards. So let me go and do a bunch more, and I'll bring you back when we're closer to being close, should I say. Well, I moved it down here and put it on a long piece of tube because I found with the extra I was bumping against the headstock and that, so this is proving a lot harder than the last one was, because I'm trying to make it in one piece. It's really being awkward, and what I keep doing is going too far over. As I say, these are very gentle curves, which is why I thought it would be easy, but it's not. So I am going to go down to Dick's on Thursday and we'll experiment with the wheel, see what's what. And then if the worst comes to worst, I'll have to think of... It's one of those things where you fall into the problem of the self-taught. In other words, I offer it up here and I look at it and I think, okay, I just need to move that inwards or outwards or whatever. Now if I'd have served my apprenticeship, or if I knew what I was doing, I would know just where to hit it and just, you know, but you don't. It's all trial and error, so you smack it around, and when you offer it up, it's worse than it was. So I thought best thing to do here is cut my losses for the moment and go down to Dick's and see if we can wheel this into the right shape. If we can, then I'll have to have another trip to Dick's later on, because I'll have to cut up another piece and start it and then wheel it. We will see. Alright, so that's going to be it for the day. Actually, it is the end of the day. I'll see if I can find something else to do until we get down to Dick's. Alright, I'm down at Dick's, the super machinist that I've mentioned previously. And before I start with the wheel, I wanted to show you the wheel he's made. So basically what Dick did was bought the wheels from one kit and made this beautiful rigid frame to go with it. But it's not just a wheeling frame. You notice this piece here he made to go on there. You can take that off. You put this one on with an air hammer in it. Change the bottom part and you've got a planishing hammer. A pneumatic planishing hammer. He's a clever bugger. So that's what we're going to use. So let me get set up, and I've had a little play with it already. Hold on a second. So has Dick. And I mean, virtually no effort. We've gone from that to that. So I've only brought one half just to see how it worked and everything. So let's do some wheeling. Before we start, actually Dick's just showed me a couple of things. I didn't mention with this, because here's the pneumatic part of it. It works from a foot switch. So in other words, you didn't have to hold the trigger in. You just, what is it? So when he's got these in, these are for holding the various planishing heads, which, for instance, there's a, I guess nylon, is it? Nylon one. There's brass one. And see, all different shapes. Isn't it clever? Look. There's even one with a little. See, this is a former and it's at an angle. So it stretches it as well. I tell you, he's a clever bugger. Alright. Now I really am going to start. Do they go in there? Yep. That looks to be about it. Okay. Excuse me. Tell you what, I'll move you around so you can look from this other angle. Right, well, here we go. Put that in. Tighten it up to get a little bit of pressure on, so I'm told. There we go. And we start taking some bumps out. Oh, hang on. Let me put my gloves on so that you don't see everything get suddenly spattered in blood. And you notice, seeing as I'm in Dick's workshop, I can be in my good clothes because it is spotless in here. You can hear it bobbling as it goes over the bumps, and then the bumps just disappear. Of course, you realise this means I'm going to have to spend more money and buy one of these. This is clever stuff. Anyway, as usual, this is going to be boring. So let me switch you off, work on it, and I'll come back when we're going to try and do this curvy end. Right, well I have to admit this is a lot better than tapping it out with a hammer. I've only been on this maybe 10 minutes. So now anyway I'm going to start doing it top to bottom to try and get the curve that way.
Bit of an angle. Angle in. There you go.
That's it. Can you hear my coach in the background there? It's harder when it's shorter. It's not as fluid. There we go. There we go. Push, pull. Push, pull. Push, pull. I'm moving it lengthwise. That's what all this push-pull is, if you're all wondering what it is, because I've got to remember which angle to put it at when you're pushing and which angle when you're pulling to make it move across the face. Oops. Put an angle. There we go. Right, let's knock you off again. Alright, it's coming along well, but to get this big curve in the front, we're going to use Dick's chucking fork. So we're going to make chucks rather than just hammering them into it.
You always want to be careful how you say that. Don't confuse your consonants.
No. Okay, so that's like that. Let me show you Dick's chucking fork. See that? These are tapered, but the inner sides are parallel. So you saw how he was making these tucks rather than just within the block. So now, according to people that know, we're going to close these ends up so that this just doesn't spread back out. And when we've closed the ends, we'll beat in that. Or that is what's supposed to happen. Okay. Close that end. Right, do we do it from this side or the other side? Or does it matter? In the bowl?
Switch your mallet over.
As you can see, I'm working my way from that closed end inwards. Look at that. Can't grip it in that glove. It's sliding around with that glove on.
I think you can start working back into the body there a little bit.
It's coming around a good bit. A good later. You get your you haven't got a round one, have you? Round.
Not really. You can probably use the back end there now too. Or in a bigger bowl.
Go and see how that looks. Well, there's a long way to come in, doesn't it? Actually, from right back here it starts to curve. Right, bang away again. Right, so we're back home, so to speak. This started to get work hardened, so I'm going to anneal that, get that done, and cut another piece. And then next week, one day, I'll be going back down to Dick's, so we can use his wheel again, because that smoothed that out so nicely. I'm going to do again the bulk of the shaping. Although I think actually with this one I went too far. These sort of come up almost straight and then curve over, and I made a big curve, so I had to sort of work backwards when I was at Dick's because there was too much. So I'll work on with this a bit more, and then as I say, I'll cut the other piece out and maybe try doing the other piece just wheeling it, because as I said, there's not that much. I overdid it I think with the hammering, so we'll see. Anyway, I'll be doing that, but also because as I say, most of this I can't really video, it would just be boring. What we're going to do next week is I'll be working on this sort of in the background, and we'll do the clutch, we'll do the primary drive, because as I mentioned, I've sort of painted myself into a little bit of a corner there, and there's more work than I expected to get done what I want to do. So you'll see all that next week. So until then, oh, by the way, it was minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, Fahrenheit this morning when we got up. So minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit, that is 42 degrees below freezing divided by 9. That's about 4.5, 5, so was about minus 23 centigrade. So tomorrow it's supposed to be 40. So there you go. What's that? 5 degrees. See? So from way below freezing to above freezing. Anyway, till then, stay safe and enjoy yourselves.